Welcome to Marvel Unmasked, your weekly place for everything Marvel. This is a new show for us, and we wanted to do something a little different. So every week, we're going to bring you a breakdown of what's going on in the Marvel Universe, including comics, cinema, TV, and even video games, and try to break apart the rumors, clickbait, facts, and actual news so you really know what's going on. We'll try to do one of these every week for you, right around Tuesday or Wednesday. So this is going to help kick off 2020 with something new. And let's just dive in with something a little bit magical. This week, the students at the New York Film Academy got to have Kevin Feige stand up in front of them and tell them how Marvel makes their magic. Now, one of the interesting things he shared for these young Padawans was how Marvel Studios decides which character to introduce in the new movie and where this happens during the script development process. This is what he had to say. Sometimes you're choosing title hero, choosing which main character or main team you want to bring to the screen, and oftentimes, it's as you're making and developing the movie, who will come into it, and who will fit into it. Now, to me, that seems like pretty standard filmmaking stuff. But then he went on to say this. The next Doctor Strange film, for instance, features some new MCU characters which will be making their debut in that movie you won't expect. Won't guess who it is, but we found a cool way to make it work, because you want to make a particular type of movie there, and there was a character who we always wanted to do something with who will really fit there. Well, that only leaves about 10,000 possibilities for which character that could be. And there's a ton of rumors going around. I've heard everything from Doctor Doom to Deadpool. But for me, personally, I suspect, and my money is on, Ghost Rider. All that recent news with the Ghost Rider television show being rolled back, I think that's highly likely. The Ghost Rider show over at Marvel TV was rolled back so fast that it always indicated to me that Marvel Studios proper already had something lined up for the character and pulled the plug on it really quick. Hearing Feige say this makes me feel like this might actually be that project, and Ghost Rider really would fit well in with Doctor Strange and lead to that Midnight Suns team up so many people really want to see happen. I also think with several of these movies starting to seed some classic X-Men and Fantastic Four material, you might see some of that too. But we have another story about that coming up in a few minutes. Kevin Feige did touch a little bit on MCU horror, and I don't think it's going to be exactly what people expect. He said, and I quote, "Multiverse of Madness is the greatest title we've ever come up with, by the way, which is one thing that's exciting about it. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a horror film, but it's a big MCU film with scary sequences in it." Then he goes on to make a couple pretty interesting points and goes down a list of some 80s classic movies that all had horror elements in them. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Poltergeist, and Gremlins. Now, interestingly enough, he talked a little bit about maintaining that PG-13 rating. And if you're familiar with the history of film, you know that Temple of Doom and Gremlins and Poltergeist to a certain extent played directly into the Motion Picture Association actually creating that PG-13 rating. So what this tells me is yes, the movie will have scary elements in it, but it won't necessarily be a horror film in the classic sense. I'm still a little excited for it, but I found that pretty interesting. Now let's move on to the Black Widow. Now it looks like we're about ready to get a new Black Widow trailer, and it was teased on a recent ESPN ad. Now this video you see comes from Reddit, so it's got to be thought that way. But if you watch this all the way to the end, it becomes pretty clear that during the National Championship on January 13th, we're going to get a new Black Widow trailer. So hopefully it won't be a bunch of rehashed material like we're seeing in this ad. I'm excited for this movie, but I do have to ask everybody, is there a lack of enthusiasm for this film? I'm not really sure how it's going down for everybody else, but there definitely doesn't appear to be the normal Marvel Studios fire for this movie. I would love to hear what you guys think about that in the comments below. I don't know, I wish I was just a little more excited about Black Widow. I think having her storyline finish off in Avengers Endgame kind of tempers some expectations, but who knows. Haven't really disappointed me too much yet, so obviously I'll be there to see it. This movie should have happened a long time ago, but under a Perlmutter, Kevin Feige was never able to make it happen. I really kind of think they might have missed the window for Black Widow. Another big story we had this week involves Venom 2 and Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Now this story came from the guys over at Geeks Worldwide, and they had a little bit of an exclusive story, with the basic scoop being that Tom Holland might appear in Venom 2 as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. They did go on to say that while Holland is currently in talks for the cameo for Venom 2, this comes from a casting breakdown. And this means that negotiations are still going on and a deal may not be made. Another thing that's really unclear here is which version of Spider-Man would appear in the film. Well, it very well could be the Spider-Man from the MCU, but he could be playing a Spider-Man from a different universe. It is quite possible that the Spider-Man in Venom 2 has nothing to do with the MCU. The second factor the guys over at GWW point out is very contingent on the first. If the MCU Spider-Man does appear in Venom 2, does that make the first and second Venom films canon to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I think this is a pretty big question. Now, back in September, when the new deal for Spider-Man was made, Kevin Feige did say, and I quote, "Spider-Man is a powerful icon and hero whose story crosses all ages and audiences across the globe. He happens to be the only hero with the superpower to cross cinematic universes. So as Sony continues to develop their own Spider-Verse, you never know what surprises the future might hold." Seems he clued us in a little bit way back then. Now, we still don't know which version of Spider-Man is going to be incorporated into Venom 2 if this deal closes. But obviously, it'll be a pretty big deal once it's announced, and if he is incorporated in the MCU, expect the internet to possibly explode. So, what do you guys think? Do you want Tom Holland's Spider-Man to appear in the Venom sequel? And do you want him to be the official Spider-Man from the MCU, or some version from an alternate Earth? Let's move on to the movie that wouldn't die, New Mutants. Now recently, I've been hearing some new and renewed interest in New Mutants over at Disney. Even kinda some good vibes, which is pretty interesting considering all the bad news we were getting when it was over at Fox. Maybe something good does end up coming from all this shuffling and waiting. My fingers are crossed. Now, Josh Boone actually took to Instagram and told us that we'll be getting a new trailer very soon. Check out the pic. According to Josh Boone, we are actually going to get a new trailer for this movie on January 6th, just about a week from today. And also, we're going to finally see the movie in theaters, at least according to Boone, on April the 3rd. Now, like we said, this is the movie that wouldn't die. It's been moved, shuffled, reshot, characters added, characters removed, stories added and removed since Boone came onto the project way back in 2014. The fact that there's a little enthusiasm on the Disney side of the fence does make me feel a little warm and fuzzy. But I'm not expecting a lot, and I don't actually expect this to be the official kickoff of Mutants in the MCU. I'm not really sure how they're going to avoid confusion with all of that, but we'll see how they handle it in a couple of months. I'm pretty sure the new cut trailer will finally give us an indication of where they're going with all this, so hopefully when that airs in just a couple of days, we'll have all those details. Now, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier has been shooting for a couple of weeks now, and we've been getting your sort of standard stream of costume shots and other set leak pictures helping us fill in what minor details we're able to obtain. There's been nothing really shocking so far, but then, just the other day, a brand new set photo revealed something pretty interesting. Check it out. Now, nothing really seems awry, but check out that symbol. That is the symbol for Madripoor, a location from the X-Men comic books. Now, in the comics, it has been a haven for criminals and other baddies, but then eventually fell under the control of Viper, aka Madam Hydra. One interesting side note in the comics is Wolverine actually spent quite a long time there as the character Patch. I don't think this is a coincidence, and I think this is one of those instances of Marvel seeding some of that new X-Men and Fantastic Four material into their current series. I can't imagine this has nothing to do with Hydra, with Madam Hydra's pretty robust history with the island in the comics. One of our theory videos, The Future of Captain America, kinda dug into Hydra being a primary villain as Sam Wilson rose as the new Captain America, and I suspect this might actually be the first part of that, although Madam Hydra and Madripoor were not part of my predictions. Hopefully we'll have some more details and a summary for the show pretty soon, but I suspect Marvel will keep most of these details under wraps, especially if this is going to be one of the first big reveals of Mutants. The nation of Madripoor made its first appearance in New Mutants number 32 way back in 1985 and was created by Chris Claremont and Steve Leialoha, and was also featured heavily in that Wolverine solo series back in '88 that was also penned by Chris Claremont. I'm curious on what you guys think they're doing with Madripoor, so let me know in the comments below. One of the other big things in Disney news this week was a Marvel Disney theme park. Now, during their Christmas Day special, Disney announced that Avengers Campus will be opening at Disney California Adventure in summer of 2020. Yep, that's me making a map. Now, for those who missed the original announcements, Avengers Campus is the name of Disney's Marvel-themed lands coming to Disney California Adventures, but it's also coming to Disneyland Paris and Hong Kong Disney. Now, they also revealed a lot of concept art. Here, let's check that out. Now, obviously, these are some shots of the park, but I gotta love the Pym Diner there. And it looks like pretty classic Disney work to me. We already knew the old Tower of Terror was turned into the collector's ride, and although I haven't had a chance to ride it myself, I've heard some pretty good reviews, so I'm more than a little excited about Disney trying to pull this off. It's also more than a little curious that Disney is going all in on these new Marvel parks, especially considering Galaxy's Edge has not turned out the money that Disney had hoped. Now, in case you're wondering, Universal Studios actually has a Marvel land in Florida, and there's some interesting contract details that go with that. Disney is allowed to have their own Marvel land. They're just not allowed to have that within a certain distance of the Florida park. I'm not sure exactly how many miles it is, and it might even be an East Coast, West Coast thing, but this is something Disney's been planning for a long time, so I don't expect them to go pretty cheap on it. Anybody else planning a vacation? Hey guys, I just wanted to remind you, if you love getting your Marvel news every week in a concise format, with your facts, rumors, conspiracy theories, and nonsense all separated into nice neat piles, this is the place to be. So make sure you hit like and press subscribe to get all of your vetted Marvel news. And finally, Deadpool 3. Earlier this week, we did a little story about Ryan Reynolds and finally getting some confirmation on whether or not we were ever going to get a Deadpool 3. Now, this film has sort of remained in limbo. Bob Iger said it was coming, but it would remain rated R, and it would remain over at Fox. We've also had a couple of writers chime in about Deadpool getting set up at Marvel Studios, but now we have something semi-official. Ryan Reynolds actually confirmed that they were working on the film this week on a talk show called Kelly and... what is he called now? Oh, Ryan. It's Ryan now. Now, he didn't really say a lot, but a little bit can go a long ways. He said, and I quote, "We're working on it," suggesting him and Marvel Studios are working together to develop this project. Now, most of the speculation has been, and seemingly confirmed by Bob Iger himself, that his solo outings will remain rated R, exactly how most fans have come to love him. But if he teams up with other Marvel characters, he may be reduced down to a PG-13 style movie. This to me may not be as bad as you think. The jokes almost write themselves, with him breaking the fourth wall, pretty consistently complaining about being bleeped out. If done right, and not too much, it would actually work really well. Now, there's so many things happening all the time, it's almost impossible to cover everything that Marvel has going on. I don't think anybody for a second thinks that this franchise would ever end. The two first films grossed almost $2 billion in the theaters and broke box office records all over the place, including at the time the biggest box office return for a rated R movie and the biggest February opening ever. I also don't see any path where Marvel can actually change the rating of the character, although Disney could screw it up, you never know, it's highly unlikely. And there's no path forward without Ryan Reynolds, who, honestly, if they don't treat the character right, I suspect would not continue to play the character, pretty much shutting down the franchise. Well, I think that's all we have for this week. Obviously, we're going to try to bring you some of the Marvel stories that are pretty exciting every week so that you know actually what's news, rumors, conspiracy, and just plain clickbait garbage. We'll try to give you a source, we'll try to show you where it's coming from, and we'll try to show you where we think it's going. So, make sure you tune in and subscribe. Till next time, as Stan Lee would say, Excelsior.